What is up, my friends? How are we? You are very welcome along to Sunday's later than normal late night agenda. I hope that you've all recovered from the England game. As I currently sit here, it is Spain 1, Georgia 1 in the other game. That looks like Spain have found their way back into it. So, loads for us to get through tonight. Despite what you probably think by the thumbnail, I'm not here to rant. I'm here to try and discuss the situation. You know, I know people don't like it when I come on and I'm negative and stuff like that. So I'm just going to ask the question, what do we think is going to happen in this window? Do we think that Liverpool and John W. Henry will splash the cash, or will we have another window of perhaps frustration? So before people come in and have a go at me, let's just get into it and we'll see what the general consensus is tonight. I want to say a couple of thank yous early doors as well. Santino, thank you mate for the super chat. Said, do you think Southgate's treatment of Trent will affect his season? Do we sell a disgruntled player now? So I would say no, because Trent's probably used to the treatment that he gets from Southgate. It was baffling to see him not brought on today in that England game. Even Gary Neville was calling for Trent to come on. But that being said, no, I don't think it's going to affect him too much. I mean, there was a lot of players on that bench that probably felt like they could have came on, and I thought it was a huge gamble from Southgate to take Kane and Bellingham off at half-time and extra time. Imagine that went to penos. But anyway, no, so to answer your question, bro, I don't think so, but I'm still concerned, obviously, about Trent's situation with the contract. JC, how are you, my friend? Thank you for gifting 10 memberships as well. I seen that before the stream started. Really lovely of you, bro. Thank you so much. And there was also 10 gifted by Mohammed John Soliev as well. Thank you, bro. Really appreciate that. You're very kind. Love you, Craig, said Trent Edwards. Thank you, mate. Thank you. So, I got a bit of good news yesterday. As you can see, I've got big man boobs, and there's something I'm very sensitive about. There's something that even when I lost the weight I couldn't sort out. But I got a phone call the other day to say that I finally got my hospital appointment, that maybe I can look to getting them removed down the line. Because, yeah, it's been something that self-consciously I don't wear tops like this usually, because, you know, I'm very self-conscious about them. But that's good news for me, and I'm actually really excited about the prospect of it. So I wanted to share it with you guys, because, you know me, I'm an open book. So tonight we're going to talk about the situation with profit and sustainability. We're going to talk about Anthony Gordon, and has Liverpool's interest died in this situation, or will we continue to look at Anthony Gordon? I think the answer is the latter, to be honest with you. I do think Liverpool will continue to push on. On top of that, we're going to talk about Mark Gay and who the favourites are for his signature. Another impressive display for him tonight for England. We're going to look at the situation with Archie Gray, who looks like he isn't going to Brentford, but could still be moving in the Premier League. Spurs are the front runners for him. And we're going to just ask you guys how you're feeling as this window really starts to get into gear now. Tonight, obviously, is the PSR deadline. And again, for those tuning in that maybe don't fully understand the difference between PSR or FFP, PSR is the 3-year calculation where football clubs have a 3-year period that they can lose no more than £105 million. This 3-year cycle comes to an end the end of the financial year, which is tonight. So if Liverpool were to try and capitalise on the PSR stuff or the problems of other clubs, they would have had to have done that before close of June, really. So not looking like we're going to see anything in that regard. Craig is sexy beats. That shirt looks amazing on you. Thank you. You know, I love polo shirts, but, you know, a lot of the material these days is a bit clingy, and when you're chunky like me and you've got the man boobs, they're not the easiest tops to wear. Right, get your tats out. They are out, mate. The boobs now. You'd have to wait for them. That'll be another story altogether. So look, what do we want to start off discussing tonight? Because I want this to be your show. The question is, where's the money, John? Of course, I'm always asking that. But I'm not here to rant and belittle anybody. I want to genuinely know how you guys are feeling and what subjects you'd like to discuss. By the way, I've been really impressed with Nico Williams in that first half for Spain and that game against Georgia as well. He's looking really good. Anthony Gordon, Liam wants to discuss. Right, no problem, Liam. Let's get stuck into it. So, a couple of things on Anthony Gordon. The Sunday Times reported that Newcastle tried to sell 3 first-team players in this past week, one of them being Anthony Gordon, because of the PSR situation. Now, however you dress this up, and it looks like he will be staying at Newcastle for the moment, you're going to have an unhappy player on your hands, because Anthony Gordon's no idiot. He's going to know that Newcastle were willing to throw him under the bus to free themselves up for PSR. And also Anderson, the kid that's going to Chelsea, I believe was Anthony Gordon's best mate up around Newcastle as well. So they've done their best to annoy Anthony Gordon, Newcastle, in this transfer window already. And I don't think this is the end of Liverpool's interest. The Observer, they believe the same. They say that Liverpool remain interested in signing Anthony Gordon despite the talks over a deal for the Newcastle winger breaking down this week. And look, I've got to say, I think Liverpool did the right thing. If Newcastle only wanted a deal that potentially included Kwanzaa, it was the right thing to walk away from it, because obviously we don't want to lose Jarell Kwanzaa. We need to add to the centre-back area of the club, not take away from it. Does Slot make Gakpo a right winger? I honestly don't know, dude. I don't mean to be pawning off the questions back to you, but it's hard to know when we haven't seen a single minute of Arne Slot on the training pitch with the boys yet, or in a pre-season friendly. We'll have a much better idea of what he's thinking of as we get closer to those games against Real Betis, Arsenal, Manchester United, and I think, is it Sevilla? Is that the last game we have before the season gets underway? Could I discuss the England game, please? Absolutely. As an outsider, fair play to England. Let me say that. Great goal by Jude Bellingham. That's what you pays the money for in club football, for that type of talent. So you can see what the hype's about there. And when England needed him, when it was backs against the wall, when it looked like all hope was lost, he stepped up, an amazing overhead kick, and scored. And then Kane gets the winner as well. So fair play. Let's start off from that. But on top of it, Gareth Southgate's team are just a little bit lucky. He's certainly lucky. And the part at the end, that could be a tipping point for England. That connection with the fans looked better at the end of the game after such a late comeback and then a win in extra time. So England will certainly feel like they've made some progress today. That being said, though, you got to look at the situation and think, how much will that have taken out of the group? Psychologically, mentally, that will have taken a lot out of the group. Physically, that will have taken a lot out of the group. And also, you have an extra day's rest for Switzerland. And these things come into play in international tournaments. So I would still say lots of work to be done, but you're still there. So credit where it's due. England are still in the competition and they live to fight another day. That's what it's about. It's knockout football. You don't have to be the best team to get through. You just have to make sure that you keep progressing. And as of right now, Southgate looks like he's living a bit of a charmed life, but England are in the quarterfinals. 2-1 to Spain now already in that one. Thank you for the update, guys, on that. What's your opinion on Gary Neville saying Trent is the best the nation has ever produced in his position? It's high praise, to be fair, from somebody that played the position himself. Look, obviously I think Trent should be playing ahead of Kyle Walker for England at right back, because I think he's a better player. But Gareth Southgate has been consistent in his conservative nature as England manager. So I agreed with Gary Neville on this situation, but it is what it is, you know. He doesn't seem to be for turning, and he seems like he's going to live or die on that hill of the team that he likes to put out. It is what it is. But again, I don't want to sound like I'm mocking England here. They got through. Fair play. You know, they needed somebody to step up at the end of the game, and Jude Bellingham did it. Craig, I respect you much more now than ever. Your professionalism in the manner you responded in rejecting the opportunity to partake in the podcast. You're generally a lovely man. Never change. Thank you, Max. So I should probably tell you what that's about. Max sent me an email, and I always encourage people to email us because I love to hear from you guys. So Max sent me an email asking me would I go on to a Twitter Space podcast or a Twitter Space with them, and I had to unfortunately say no, not because I don't like Max, not because I don't like the people that were interested around the podcast. I just don't want to be on that platform because I feel it as a toxic platform. And Max very kindly understood where I was coming from, and I appreciate that, bro. Any other type of platform, I would have been there in a heartbeat for you, Max, but just wasn't willing to go back onto to Twitter or X because I've been off there for a few years. Trent Alexander-Arnold 66 said, Craig, I'm going to Anfield for the first time soon for a tour, and I'm straight into Trent's seat. God, I adore that man. Enjoy, bro, enjoy. I'm looking to bring my own son over for the stadium tour when we're over in Liverpool in August. So yeah, let me know how you get on. I actually haven't done the stadium tour since the new main stand has been done, so I'm looking forward to going over and doing it myself in August. So yeah, well in, my man. and let me know how you get on. I hope you enjoy it. It's a beautiful place to visit, honestly. Hairs in the back of your neck will stand up when you're there, and enjoy. Right, what else have we got to get through? There was something else I wanted to mention. Oh yes, I should mention our sponsors. As you can see tonight, we are being brought to you with thanks to our amazing long-term partners, Manscaped. Don't forget, my friends, you can get yourself 20% off and free tickets at manscaped.com. Whether it's the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra or anything else on Manscaped, you can get 20% off with our code Anfield20. Scan the QR code on the screen or use the code at checkout, and that will get you that discount. Asantino, thank you, bro, for gifting another 10 memberships. You are so kind. I love it. I love seeing people get gifted memberships, my man. So well into you and everybody else that's contributed so far tonight. Want to give you a reminder about our live shows as well. People keep saying to me that they didn't even know that they were on when they realised the show was on. That's because we don't really have many other ways to publicise it other than on streams. So if you would like to come to any of the Anfield Agenda live shows, there are 2 left. Cardiff, Liverpool. You can get your tickets with the link at the top of the chat and in the description. Any questions or anything, just email us and I'll answer them as best as I can. Craig, Torres or Suarez? For me, mate, Suarez. I loved El Pistolero. Now, nothing wrong with El Nino. I enjoyed him as well. But I always say the same thing. Suarez was the most skillful player I've ever seen play for Liverpool. I thought he was incredible. Obviously, he had his own antics and stuff. Okay, so there's some quotes doing the rounds from Ugarte's agent regarding Liverpool. But these quotes are a year old. So if anybody's seen those things floating around, don't be drawn in to think that these are quotes coming around for a deal for Ugarte now. They are, in fact, a year old. So just want to keep that in mind before we get into it. I found my tickets, Craig, and my emails. Thought I'd lost them for good. Thank you, Brett. What I was trying to say to you on email, bro, and I'm probably stupid, is I hadn't got access to them. So what we do, Brett, for fellas like yourself or whatever, is we buy the tickets but send them directly to the email of the invitee. So I never got the actual physical tickets or the email. So I'm glad you found them. I was worried about you. I was hoping I would have bought you another 3 anyway, mate, but I was hoping you were able to find them. Have I heard anything about Calafiori? Nothing new. Nothing new, no. But what I can say to you is it's a very, very believable link for a whole host of reasons. 1, Bologna look like they're resigned to selling. 2, Richard Hughes knows the Italian market very well and has been looking at Calafiori right back from when he was at Bournemouth. So he has a long-held interest in that player and wanting to bring him to the Premier League. So I would say you can certainly put Calafiori in the reasonable transfer link. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. That's the truth. But it's not the most unrealistic of links, and one that I think certainly has some credence to it. Craig, I've sent you a follow-up email. If you could answer now or after the stream, cheers. Well, I can't answer it now, Max. I'm in the middle of a stream, bro. I will do my best to answer it later. Might be a bit later tonight, though. I'm jumping in the shower and doing a few other bits when the stream's over. Right, Craig, if you want to hear transfer, download FootMob and follow Liverpool. I don't need to, Richard. I'm quite well versed on where to look and where to get the old Liverpool transfer news, mate. Don't worry about it. I'm quite up to speed. In fact, I'm so up to speed that we don't even get credited. So you may have seen reports yesterday doing the rounds, as reported by the Echo and elsewhere, that Liverpool were considering Caoimhín Kelleher and money for Anthony Gordon. And what you didn't see anywhere was the credit for that going to us, because it's our story. You'll see Team Talk and many others credited with it, but it started with us. And again, another time that we don't get credited with this information. Check out our Twitter account. Look back to yesterday at about 4 o'clock and you'll see that we posted that first before anybody else. But as always, the Echo and everybody else just loves to purposely blank us and make sure that we don't get any credit anywhere, because heaven forbid. Because their biggest fear is that we get recognised, that people understand that we exist. Because once we do, it's game over. Because we're the best Liverpool community on the internet. And once people realise we're here and you guys are here, it's game over. So they can keep trying to block us out all they want. But we're going to kick that fucking door down sooner or later. And there ain't a damn thing anyone can do about it. So you guys are in early doors. You can sit back, relax and enjoy the journey. But we're a coming. We're coming to take over. Anfield Agenda and our community will not be denied. Right. What else have we got? Newcastle signed a keeper today. Did they? Not sure. Haven't seen. Don't really follow Newcastle's transfer business, to be honest with you. So for the goalkeeping situation, I do feel like we are going to have to bring one in. Now, I don't have a clue whether that's going to be Bento, the kid from Australia that we spoke about previously from Wellington Phoenix, whether it's going to be I don't know who it is, but it does feel like we're going to need one this summer. And hopefully we start getting transfer business sorted soon. I'm sure that there is a plan, that Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes, Arne Slaw have sat down and there's a plan in place. It's just a matter of when we start to see this plan come to fruition. And for me, I'm getting nervous because what I don't want and what I'm scared of happening is for us to get the players renewed and that to be kind of pushed as a great window for us. If we got Trent, Verge and Salah renewed, be a good window, but it wouldn't be a great window. It would just be the status quo. We need to kick on. So, thoughts on the links that we've had so far? For me, if I was to assess the links on how strongly I think the likelihood of them happening is, I would say Aït-Nouri has a very good chance. In fact, I'd be surprised at this point if the stories about Liverpool's interest in Aït-Nouri aren't true, because we know that Liverpool have had an interest there going back quite a while. And I do believe that this could be the summer where we make that plunge on the left side. I really struggle when I talk about these things because I don't want to sound disrespectful to Kostas Tsimikas, because I like Kostas. He comes across as a lovely guy, but I don't think he's good enough. But Aït-Nouri could give us that option. Robbo is at a tipping point in his career. He needs a better season than last season. Has Father Time caught up with him? I still think he has a few more years to go. But he has had some injuries and stuff, so we need real competition. And with all due respect to Kostas, I never see him as an out-and-out competitor for a genuine starting berth on the left side. So I think Aït-Nouri to me makes sense. In the centre-back situation, as I've said before, Calafiori makes sense to me because of the Richard Hughes link going back quite a while. Mark Gay would make a lot of sense to me as well. Homegrown, Premier League proven, doing very well with England. Would be costly at about £65 million. But even if you look at the odds, we aren't even favourites to sign Mark Gay. The latest odds that I've seen from the bookies are Manchester United 2-1 favourites to sign Mark Gay. Chelsea 11-4 and Liverpool 3-1. Spurs next then a 5-1. So the belief isn't there in the punters, in the betting market, that Liverpool are going to sign Mark Gay. After that, I mean, your guess is as good as mine what centre-back it might be. What I don't think will happen is we don't bring in a centre-back, because we've lost one, an experienced one in Matip. Canade's form at the end of last season was a bit shaky and had some injuries. Kwanzaa is young and Verge is 33. So I do think we need a centre-back to come in for the here and now, or at least to be able to challenge for the here and now. Whitehammer, thank you for your super chat, my friend. Said, what are my thoughts on the academy inflation? And then you followed that up with Newcastle, Anderson for 35 million is a joke. So there's two sides to this, right, Whitehammer, in my opinion. There's the side where the selling club will say that they commanded such a fee because they're an undoubted talent that will make it and are known about in the game. That's going to be the line from the selling clubs when they're getting these really high fees. Now, I can't be a hypocrite. If it was Liverpool and we were getting high transfer fees for academy players like that, I'd be happy with it. But where I do have a problem is the kind of hypocrisy of saying that these guys are undoubted world beaters and then moving them on. If they're so good and they're there for the future, it's a short-term gain. So I don't believe that he is genuinely a £35 million player. That's my thoughts on it. I do think it's all a little bit suspect, but within the rules as we have them. So whether the Premier League investigate these further or not, that remains to be seen. But as all we know is right now is a player that none of us have really heard of has just been sold for 35 million quid to, well, Chelsea. Again, a club that seem to be able to stockpile these 18 to 22 year olds for very high transfer fees on very high contracts and are not breaking any rules. It doesn't doesn't inspire me with confidence that the spirit of the game is being well utilised. How do you feel about it? How do you guys feel about the inflated transfer fees for some youngsters? Squeaky, sorry mate, I did miss your super chat, my apologies. Been a while since I sent the super chat. I really like the look of Gay and I hope we sign him. If you could sign any forward, who would you sign? Nico Williams. I just think he's amazing, in all honesty. I think he is really, even watching him tonight for Spain, he plays like somebody who's so much older. His game intelligence is tremendous. The runs that he makes are brilliant. And there was a couple of occasions in that first half tonight for Spain that he played the ball off, continued his run, and the Spanish midfielders never got their head up to look. I think he's brilliant. And I do know that his wages are high, and I know that could be a potential stumbling block. But my God, what a player for a guaranteed £45 million transfer fee. So if you could talk him to coming over to England, I think he'd be brilliant. Now, interestingly, on Kvaratskhelia, another forward, of course, that we've been linked with, there's an interesting story doing the rounds today about him. Let me just grab my notes here. So, on Kvaratskhelia, this piece here says, Kvaratskhelia wants Premier League move. So when we've been talking about Ivica Kvaratskhelia for a while, we've always kind of thrown PSG into the equation as a club that are likely to make a play for him. Excuse me. This source, though, according to this article, said Liverpool have been linked with Kvaratskhelia, but 2 other Premier League clubs want him. But the interesting part is the next line. He turned down PSG because he wants to come to England. Thoughts? Because if somebody in the Premier League is buying Kvaratskhelia, I should certainly hope that we're one of those clubs that are looking at it. And to be fair to this piece, it does say that we are. But if he's turned down PSG and he's coming to the Premier League, where's he going to go? We know Chelsea need a wide player, but... Well, I was going to say, but will they have the money? Of course they will. Todd always finds a few quid. Newcastle don't need to sell Gordon anymore. They just made 68 million quid today. Yes, that's true. But I think we're ignoring another big aspect of that. So Newcastle don't need to. That's absolutely correct what you've said. The Anderson sale and the Minta sales mean that they don't have to do that to meet PSR requirements. But they've still told Anthony Gordon that they were willing to sell him. It's not a good look for Newcastle. A player who had a very good first campaign with them was offered around to other clubs. And that to me is the key point here. It's not like Liverpool came knocking on Newcastle's door and said, we want to sign Anthony Gordon any chance. Every story that you read about this said that Newcastle were the ones going around making the offer. So they may be happy that they haven't sold him yet, but he ain't going to be happy about it. His agent ain't going to be happy about it. And he certainly isn't going to go back to Newcastle and feeling like he's loved, is he? So I don't know if we've heard the end of an Anthony Gordon transfer just yet. Craig, I don't want another unpronounceable. I think Kvaratskhelia at this point, I've got down to a T. Well, I remember when he was first being spoken about, I just called him Kvaradona all the time. But Kvaratskhelia, let me just ask you guys, do you think Liverpool are going to sign Kvaratskhelia? Because I really would love to know how you're feeling about it. One sec. Right, so will we sign Kvara? I'm just shortening it down here. I'm not writing out the whole name. I want to know how you're feeling about this one, because I think we have something up our sleeves. So when I put tonight's stream title together, and I said to Connor, right, Connor, this is what I want for tonight's stream title. Where's the money, John? And Connor turned round to me fairly and said, I thought you weren't going negative. I thought that the plan was that we don't go negative and we try to be positive this summer. And I said to him, I am. I'm asking the question, but I'm not going to come on and rant about it because there is time. But my problem is I don't have belief in the owners, sorry. And I do think we've got the best team in place now to make the right transfer decisions. And again, it'll be a waste if we don't utilise them. So there's nothing wrong with FSG looking at our new coach, Arne Slot, and saying that he's a coach that can improve players, that can coach players up to the academy. There's nothing wrong with that. But it can't be the only option. We do have to have that ability to go out into the transfer market and spend like a big club. And I do believe this summer we're going to get that one transfer that will make us all a little bit surprised. And maybe it is Anthony Gordon. Maybe that continues. But I understood Anthony Gordon from the context of the PSR needs of Newcastle. Now that those needs have been met, I would say there are better options for us. So I would say Nico Williams, better option. Kvaratskhelia, probably a cheaper option, but still a good option. And then there are others as well that we could look to. But what this opens up to me is, again, a belief that the club are, despite what they say, expecting to lose a forward. You don't start to look at these deals, your Nico Williams, your Kvaratskhelia, your Anthony Gordons, unless there is a belief that a space is going to be freed up. Fab has said Liverpool retained an interest in Gordon and he's very open to the move. That's kind of what I've been told as well, Ethan. Certainly at the start of the stream, mate, I brought up a couple of headlines from the newspapers today, and one of them came from The Observer that kind of said similarly to Fabrizio Romano. The interest in Liverpool and Gordon has been there for a while. Obviously, when he was at Everton, Liverpool were never going to be able to make that direct transfer because we just don't do business with them. So now that he's at Newcastle and he's been thrown under the bus by Newcastle, yeah, I can see why he'd be open to the move. He is a Liverpool fan. I don't know if he's the right answer, but he's certainly worth the conversation for me, Anthony Gordon. Graham said, I voted no, would love to see him at Anfield, but I feel something will scupper the transfer over to us and he's probably in the Barcelona or Chelsea. And that to me, mate, is even more worrying, because we've seen these situations where a player we know, big player on the move, Declan Rice as an example, big player, we know he's on the move, but we knew he was never coming to Liverpool. Jude Bellingham, we knew he was going to move and we backed away before we even got to the tail end of that deal. So we can't do it again. We can't just keep allowing those in and around us to improve big every summer while we hope for our manager to coach people to brilliance or for a talent to come out of the academy. Talents from the academy are great, but you can't guarantee success with them. We need some here and now signings, and this has to be the summer. Do none of you watch Gordon's recent interviews? He says he loves it at Newcastle. So, do you think just perhaps that he's placating the fans that he's playing in front of every week? He's hardly going to come out and go to Kip, I hate playing here, I want to leave. So no matter what he said, Ninja Shrimp, the club threw him under the bus. If you were Anthony Gordon and you were away with England and your agent rings you and said, Newcastle are offering you around. They're offering you to Liverpool, which I'm sure excited him, and they're willing to get rid of you to satisfy PSR. There's two things in that. One, it shows that Newcastle were taking a gamble that hasn't paid off for them. So how they got themselves into PSR trouble needs to be talked about as well. But it also shows that at the first opportunity, they were willing to sell Anthony Gordon and throw him under the bus. And that ain't going to inspire confidence. So for me, again, I think it's an indication that he's available. That's probably the fairest way I can say it. Typical FSG transfer window, no ambition, said Stevie Boy. Hope I'm wrong. Well, even I, as negative as I am about the owners, mate, I'm not going to sit here and say that we've ruined the window, because nothing's happened yet. And most people rationally will say, loads of time, Craig, don't get your knickers in a twist, relax. That's fair, but I just don't have the belief in the owners. That's what worries me. You know, we've had loads of windows where we've flirted with a big deal or been mentioned with a big deal. It's about getting these things over the line. We cannot have another situation where we don't sign the player we go after, like Caicedo, like Lavia. We have to get it done this summer. And the quicker we can get it done, the better. Do you think with Klopp not being here anymore, it will affect our pull to get top players? Yes and no. And again, I'm going to be entirely honest with what I'm saying. Liverpool Football Club is still Liverpool Football Club. We are always, like United, going to have pulling power. We are, of course, in the Champions League again, and in recent history have more often than not been in that competition. So that will, of course, attract people. Will the fact that we've a new sort of unproven coach hinder? It might do. Genuinely, if we're being honest, it might. But I still think we're a big enough draw that most players would want to come and play. And honestly, on top of that, I feel that very quickly Arne Slot will prove himself. I think he's a great coach. And I have full faith in him. And I have full faith in Michael Edwards. And I have full faith in Richard Hughes, Dave Fallows, Barry Hunter, Julian Ward, Will Spearman. It's just those Scrooge McDucks over in Boston that I don't have the faith in. How are Chelsea not going to have a problem with the PSR thing? Honestly, Eddie, mate, I don't know. I'm same as you. I like to think I'm a semi-intelligent fella. But how can you spend £1 billion in a year and not fall afoul of it? Even if you recouped 400 or 500 million. We're still talking about figures that nobody's ever seen in a transfer market. And yet, we were told they had to get Champions League football. And they're in the Europa Conference League. And they're still going around splashing more cash than most in this window. It's mental. I don't know how they get away with it, Eddie, mate. I do not know. Nico Williams just scored for Spain to make it 3-1. See? This kid's the real deal. And if he departs Bilbao this summer, we should be at the forefront of the queue. Because he technically ticks pretty much every box for FSG. Young player that has scope to improve, but is experienced. Has a reasonable fee. The only stumbling block there might be the wages. And of course, it's not an insignificant stumbling block. But you've got to think big and look to the future. If Saka is getting £350,000 a week at Arsenal, we have to be able to get to the point where we can look at 250 grand a week and not flinch. Because for talents like him, sometimes you do need to take that hit. You know, I know it might raise some eyebrows in the dressing room, but those eyebrows will quickly come back down if we start to win stuff and look like we're real force again. That would be a statement signing for me. Nico Williams to come into the football club, and maybe then we start shifting a forward around. Maybe we can look to move somebody across to the right to provide competition for Mo. Even if we don't sell Diaz, I still think making a Nico Williams signing is astute, because it looks to the future. It gives us that year with Mo again, and if Mo falls off a little bit, then Nico Williams or Gakpo or Diaz or Jota or somebody can put pressure on the right side of attack. Nico does not press like Gordon. Well, again, it depends. A player presses if the system asks the player to press. So, off the top of my head, hand on heart, I don't know the exact system that Bilbao operate with. I know he's played the majority of his games on the left side of their attack, but he has played on the right on occasion. But I think if he's asked to press, he will press. You know? And he wouldn't be brought in if he didn't have the attitude that we think would fit into the squad. And our squad work very hard. So yes, I agree, he would have to press. But just because he doesn't now doesn't mean that he can't. Eddie Howe's system involves a lot of pressing, counter-attacking at pace, and utilising the likes of Almiron, Anthony Gordon, and the pace that they have. Harry said, sorry Craig, really don't see Nico coming. It's all good, bro. I want you guys to give me your honest opinion. You never have to be worried about not agreeing with me. I don't expect people to agree with everything I say. There's a way of disagreeing, and you've been very sound in the way you've done that. So don't ever worry about that, my man. Adam, sorry. Have I missed your super chat, Adam? My apologies, bro. I'm going to scroll back up to get that for you now. There it is. I do apologise, Adam Brown, mate. Sorry, that's on me. Would Newcastle accept Jones or Costas or Sepp van den Berg in a deal for Gordon? I honestly wouldn't have a clue where to start with that, because we also have to remember the player needs to want to move. So the reason Kelleher makes sense is because he could go there and push Nick Pope to become a number one, and I think could have a good option for Newcastle there, a good opportunity to push him. at a great club with a great fan base and the opportunity to improve. So I think if we're looking to part exchange Van den Berg, then surely it's got to be for Calafiori, because they already have an interest in him. So if Bologna have an interest in Sepp Van den Berg and we have an interest in Calafiori, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to try and link this together to think surely there's something mutually beneficial that we can do here. And if you look at it from Sepp Van den Berg's side, he'd be going to a good league, one of the top leagues in Europe, playing in the Champions League next season with Bologna if he was part of that deal. So yeah, I think that'll be fine. Magpies United, so we have a keeper now. Cool. Well then in that case, maybe your goalkeeper department is sorted, which, so any Newcastle fans that are in the chat, firstly, welcome in. It's nice to have you. Yesterday got a bit snotty with some Newcastle fans in the chat. And I understand why. Because you don't want to wake up to the headlines that you might be losing a player like Gordon who's done really well for your club. I get it. I understand your frustrations. But what I would say is the PSR rules were all signed up for by everyone. Whether you're Villa, Liverpool, Newcastle, Man United or anybody else. All the owners signed up to the rules. And I've nothing but respect for Newcastle fans. Go back and watch. I always say if I didn't support Liverpool, I probably would have ended up supporting Newcastle. But this situation is a bit of a mess at the minute in the Premier League with regards to profit and sustainability rules. Clubs don't seem to know what the fuck's going on. And that's a worry, because you've every right to be concerned. And I don't know what the solution is longer term around this, but I do know that I want football clubs to be there for the next generation. So we have to start holding clubs to account. And unfortunately, sometimes this is going to involve some unpalatable situations. But I've got nothing but respect for Newcastle as a club. I can't see us signing anybody, said Eddie Cox Wilkins. Wow. I mean, even I, mate, who am the most pessimistic FSG Liverpool fan you're probably going to meet. Even I think we're going to do some business in this window. It's a difficult window for everybody for a whole host of reasons. Shortened summer because of the international competitions. Probably some concerns about overspending. And then we've got a new coach as well. So there's a lot going against us in this window, which is why I think we need to be even more brave in how we tackle it. Dream window for Michael, and thank you, Michael. Member with us for 4 months, bro. Really appreciate you. Said dream window: Nico Williams, Ederson, Calafiori. Almost my dream window there. A little change to that: remove Calafiori for Mark Gay, and that would be a dream window for me. So Fabrizio Romano, as per somebody said on the Here We Go podcast, said Liverpool do retain an interest in Anthony Gordon. The player was very open to the situation. Look, that's okay, and I wouldn't take that Newcastle fans as a sign of disrespect either. Gordon is from Liverpool. He grew up a Liverpool fan. His family in and around Liverpool. So I have no doubts that he'd like to go back to the city he grew up in to play football. But he'll still give 100% for Newcastle while he's there, because he strikes me as an honest type of character in that regard. Graham Jackson said, Craig, give your honest opinion, as you always do. Hand on heart, who do you actually see us signing? Will it be anyone? So my honest opinion, mate, in this whole transfer window has always been that I have no idea who the top targets are. None. We heard about the Anthony Gordon thing about 18 hours before it started to break, and we teased it in our stream. But unless I have a concrete confirmation that we want somebody, I'm not going to be the one to come on and say it. I'll let others break that story. But I do really, really think we will spend in the window. I just don't know who. And I won't lie to you, I don't know who. You could name me 5 players and say rank the likelihoods out of 10. And all I could do is use the checklist. Are they the right age profile? Is it a fee that we can afford? Is there an opportunity for this player to improve? And if the answer to that is yes, then more often than not, then they're in the category where we're looking at them, or we can be looking at them. But I really don't know it this summer. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I love that nobody has a clue. But it still makes you nervous. because nothing getting out, nothing being leaked is brilliant as long as something happens. But I can also understand everybody's anxiety around the fact that nobody has a clue. Because I've had a phrase for the journalists for the whole window so far, which is they're great at telling us who we're not interested in, but they don't seem to have a clue who we are interested in. So until they start delivering on that front, I think we as fans are right to be a little bit pessimistic about some of these links, because they're all coming from the other side of the deals. So the links for Ederson, Calafiori, they're all coming from the other side, the Bologna side. Not saying they're not legit links, but be nice if we woke up one day and seen James Pearce say Liverpool are 100% after Calafiori, or David Ornstein to say Liverpool 100% are still going to go after Anthony Gordon, or whomever. Magpies United said, yep, definitely get that. We're debt free, yet can't spend. Something needs changing as Man United hundreds of millions in debt. I hear you, mate, I hear you. And one thing I've always said about Newcastle since the takeover is, well, two things, because I'm not going to lie to your face. Two things. One, I don't like sovereign wealth funds or any state owning a football club. Doesn't matter what state it is. Ireland, Saudi Arabia, Australia, it doesn't matter to me. I don't like the idea of a state owning a football club. So I can't lie to you. That annoys me. But you have not taken the piss as a club. You look at other clubs, Man City, PSG, we'll all think, how? Newcastle, to their eternal credit, I think they've tried to operate strategically and fairly in this window. And that's before we get into the whole youth transfers thing, which I don't really understand yet. I think we need to get used to this. It's the Edwards way. What about Dani Olmo? So you'll see links to Dani Olmo, but the reason I don't believe the links to Dani Olmo are twofold. One, I've not been told that he's a player we're after. And two, he plays the position for the player that we've already taken from Leipzig and brought to Liverpool. A better player than him in Dominic Szoboszlai. So I don't see why we'd return to buy the replacement for the player that we already bought. And Dani Olmo, I don't think is good enough to come to Liverpool, in all honesty. So that's my real take on him. I don't believe the links, and I don't think we're going to go in for him because I don't think we need him. Anthony Gordon wants Liverpool move, said Eugene. Is there anything new on João Neves? No, mate, no. Nothing at all for me anyway on that one. Asantino, squeaky clean, so we bought Szoboszlai who did better, numbers in the same position and is younger than Olmo. It makes no sense. Exactly. We got the best player out of Leipzig in Dominic Szoboszlai. Now, to be fair, we need Dom to raise his level a little bit this season. Magpies United said, totally understand on your view. We have to do it properly. When Mike Ashley was in charge, we literally had no sponsor, so we're having to build slowly. Exactly. And you'll get there. And I will give you that credit, mate. Spurs did it as well. It is possible to breach this top six, as people like to talk about. But it can't be turbocharged within the rules. It's very difficult. Villa have got there. You guys have got there previously. But you are trying to do it the right way. And I will always credit clubs that are trying to do it that way. It pisses me off when we see a Manchester City or a PSG and the way that they just come in and take the piss. Or Chelsea. Everybody, including, I'm likely thinking yourself, is wondering what's going on there. How are they getting away with it? How were they able to lose? I think it was 900 grand a week for 17 years under Roman Abramovich. But yeah, no sanctions really. Under Todd Bowley, they spent £1 billion in a calendar year and yet still out there spending. Always had a get out of jail free card to Saudi for these players who are nowhere near the values that they were being sold for. It stinks to me. And it makes it more difficult for clubs like yourself who are trying to raise corporate revenues, get yourselves into European competitions and turn Newcastle into the sleeping giant that, we know that they are. So I'm glad you're in with us tonight and I hope you see the side I'm coming from on this. I've nothing but respect for Newcastle. I just am a big defender of football clubs not being owned by states because it removes jeopardy. And if there's no jeopardy in it, what's the point? Did you see PSG have offered something like, was it 250 million for Yamal? That's just fucking mental. They're not getting him. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, it's mental. Like, they're offering 250, but they're not going to get him. The reason they got Neymar was they paid the release clause. I think his release clause is probably like £1 billion. That's the normal one for Barca. Chelsea have sold hotels, to themselves. But yet somehow that's within the rules. Sell Cobham to yourself. Sell the hotels to yourself. And that somehow is okay? You know, for us normal people, that doesn't make any sense to us, right? Kvaradona looks really good. Hopefully we try and get him. Well, let's have a look at the poll. Will we sign Kvaratskhelia? We've had over 700 votes in this poll so far, and almost 70% of you guys think it is very unlikely that Liverpool sign Khvicha Kvaratskhelia. And you know what? I'm going to end the poll because it's so one-sided, but I think I agree with you. So, if we don't sign Kvaratskhelia, and if we don't sign Nico Williams, because I think most people in the chat felt like they'd like Nico Williams, but they don't believe Liverpool will do it. Who are we going to sign in that area? Is it going to be a revisit for Anthony Gordon? Is it going to be Chiesa? Because I've not seen anything new on Chiesa, and his situation with Juventus is it's entering into its last year. And also, what the hell is going on with Trent, Virgin, Mo? The more every day goes on, the more I feel less likely that Salah is even being negotiated with for a new deal, because he's the one player of the big stars of the club who is on holiday. So Liverpool could be negotiating right now with Salah and his agent, and it's really, really quiet in that front. So I'm confused. What would be a successful season for you, said on Tim. So I can answer that question now, mate, and then in the summer give you a completely different response. I'll give you an example. Going into last season, did I think we'd be title challengers? No. Did I think that we would do as well as we did in the league? No. But at the end of the season, I felt disappointed, even though we finished third. But before the season, I'd have absolutely taken third. So I think it's a matter of context of what happens. On paper, if you go back to when the Premier League fixtures were announced, The Athletic did a piece ranking every club's start to the season on their first 5 or 6 games. Liverpool have the easiest start to the season. 20th out of the 20 teams. We are apparently going to have the easiest beginning to our Premier League campaign. So that gives us the opportunity to get out there and get some points on the board. But that's on paper. We know opening day of the season, 12:30, we're at Portman Road against Ipswich. They're not going to roll over. Like all new teams promoted, we're going to have to fight to get that win. So if we can get off to a good start, anything is possible. But what we can't have happen is just to limp at the start, because we ain't going to catch up. We're good front runners, but we're not going to just catch up on a team again. So progress is what I want for this season. And as Arne Slot said, I loved when he said I want more than 82 points. I think that's a good start. And as a football fan, you should go into every competition, every season, thinking that you're going to win it. That should be the aim until it's proven otherwise. So what is a good season? Right now, I would take another qualification for the Champions League, getting out of the group stage into at least the quarterfinals. If Arne Slot could tuck away a domestic trophy to take a bit of pressure off and buy him a little bit more time, I'd take that. That's kind of what I'm expecting. But I just don't buy into the narrative that he's a sacrificial lamb to replace Jurgen Klopp until the real Jurgen Klopp replacement comes in. I think people are underestimating, some people, what Arne Slot's capable of. Typical FSG window. Promise, spin, excuses and underinvestment. Not again, please, John. Do you know what gets me about FSG is they love to come out with this bullshit line of our ethos is always to under-promise and over-deliver. So let me say that again. They go around saying that their ethos is to under-promise and over-deliver. Excuse me? I'm still waiting for the latter part of that, because They've promised that we can challenge for generational talents. They've promised that we can go head to head with big clubs for deals. So where's the over-delivering? I certainly don't feel like there's any over-deliverance there at all. I feel like, and I'm going to die on this hill, John W. Henry doesn't give a fuck about Liverpool Football Club from a footballing context. I will go to my grave with that viewpoint. He's in this for one thing and one thing only. The asset, the value, the growth, the money. That is frustrating to me, because you can say what you want about Todd Bowley, but he's ruthlessly trying to win. He's ruthlessly trying to deliver. You can say what you want about Florentino Perez, but every single one of us admires that Real Madrid squad that they've been able to put together and the consistency that they've delivered trophies. We need to start wearing the big boy pants. And again, we don't... Why did you fall in love with Liverpool Football Club? I'm guessing somewhere in your love affair with Liverpool, you were shown videos of the past of Emlyn Hughes, Phil Thompson, Steven Gerrard lifting up trophies. You've seen the cop in full voice. You've seen the parades. You've seen Liverpool players and captains running around Anfield with trophies laden. You've seen Paisley, Shankly, Fagan, Kenny. Why are we accepting less now? This is what I don't get about our fan base. If I come on here and say I want us to win shit and I want us to be ruthless, I'm called greedy or a wool or I don't understand. But I grew up being fed trophies. I grew up knowing what Liverpool was about, that we exist to win. Why don't we exist to win now? That's that genuinely, I know it sounds like a simplistic question, but why not? Why are we having our expectations tapered by the owners? I feel like we're browbeaten as a set of fans, that we expect the bare minimum and that anything above the bare minimum is good enough. It isn't. And you should be questioning the owners because they're getting away with it. Liverpool have always been fighters. That's Scout's definition, but FSG is a joke. Even their baseball team is a joke, I think, said Jonathan Dobbs. I don't know, mate. I don't know anything about MLB and I don't know anything about the Red Sox. But I do know that they're absent owners and they don't give a shit. And I don't think that's up for debate. You know, when your owner saunters over once or twice a season, not good enough. Not good enough. Because he gets to walk around Boston or live over there, and as long as Liverpool Football Clubs continue to grow in value, he's going to be happy. But he's not the one that's buying season tickets every year or paying for Sky Sports and BT or buying the new shirts or travelling around Europe as so many fans do. We don't get to keep writing off seasons. We don't get to keep talking about this fucking mythical future. It's time to deliver, John. It's time to win. Craig, could you ever see the owners selling? Yes, they'd sell tomorrow, in my opinion, for the right money. But from me, this is how I see it. John W. Henry wants to sell at the peak. So when he thinks there isn't another pound to be rinsed out of football, that's when he's going to sell. When he sees Liverpool have fulfilled every single possible way of rinsing the fan base and bringing up revenue. He bought the club for 300 million. And now it's worth conservatively 3.5 billion. So if he was to sell the club tomorrow, he'd make multiples of the investment. And I think if somebody came in with a £5 billion offer, he'd probably sell. But the likelihood of that happening is slim to none. And do you know what? In all honesty, there's no idea what the next owner is going to be like. So that whole warning of Ian Ayre back in the day of be careful what you wish for, there's some sense to that as well. Because in this day and age, most people who are going to be able to buy a football club are going to be investment funds or state-backed funds. And they'll have different reasons for wanting success. Some of them will want success for financial reasons. Some of them perhaps for sports washing reasons or PR reasons. But ultimately, they're all going to want to turn a profit. So it's a slippery slope, and football's getting greasier by the season. Is Gordon still possible? Thank you for your super chat, Harry. Yes, absolutely. I wouldn't be looking for it to be possible before midnight tonight, but yes, that interest is still there in Anthony Gordon because that interest precedes this window. Mervyn, how are you, mate? Welcome in. £65 for a seven-year-old's top stinks. Yes, it does. Do you know what got me, though? Do you remember when they were saying it was Nike that were responsible for putting the shirt prices up? That wound me up something fierce. It's like they were just saying, oh, well, we had nothing to do with this. We just agreed for Nike to come on and agreed to deal with them. But the fact they put the prices up, oh, God, gee, golly gosh, that's got nothing to do with us. They take us for idiots. FSG need to realise that you have to speculate to accumulate. That's what Real Madrid do. Top players bring in merchandise and gate fees. Yes, exactly. And they bring eyes to the table. Here's what gets me. I'm going to try to word this as best as I can. If you look at Liverpool's situation over the past 5-6 years, I think most of us feel like we're not too far away. We don't need to go out there and bring in 8-9 new players. Right now, we would all, as reasonable fans, be happy with a centre-back, a defensive midfielder, and something done in attack, as well as, of course, the contracts that need to be sorted for Mo, Verge and Trent. I don't think that that's unrealistic, and I don't think that that's greedy to expect. But every year, it feels like we're just playing catch-up to get back to where other clubs were the year before, forgetting that those same other clubs are pushing on and pushing forward. So, Arsenal, they're going to bring in a forward this summer. No sure thing. Real Madrid strategically go out there and fulfill every goddamn space that they need to do in their spot. You can talk about how they do it, and they're actually really clever. Look at the likes of the deals for Camavinga. They got him really cheap because of the position he was in his contract. Look at what they were about to do with Lenny Yoro. Similar thing. Jude Bellingham, look at the price they paid there. It's not rocket science to see these deficiencies in the squad. But yet we keep being treated like idiots. You know, Jurgen Klopp saying to us that we were like a child getting that toy car at Christmas who just wasn't happy or whatever. Like, that's just not fair. When you're being asked to shell out top quid for tickets, jerseys, TV sponsorships, or TV packages, I think you've got every fucking right to expect your club to challenge and your owners to spend. We need players that can fit into Slot's game plan, said Mark. We do, but we also need to fill out the squad with players who are good enough to come in and challenge. So we went last season throughout the whole campaign without Virgil van Dijk or Mohamed Salah having a single challenger to their position. That is not healthy. I'm not saying there's anybody that would have came in and displaced Virgil or that would have displaced Mo, but I know I would have liked to see Virg get more rests and be rotated a little bit more to try and prolong him and make sure that we have him for the big games that we need him. I know that it's not healthy for Mohamed Salah to not be looking over his shoulder and see somebody there ready in case he has a poor game to come in and try and take a spot. That's what healthy competition's about. Jurgen Klopp himself said that every year it's about freshening 1 or 2 new faces into increase competition. Competition's good. Going stale and thinking that no matter what you do, that jersey's yours, that is not healthy. If we don't sell or sign anybody, what's our prospects for the season? We've got a good team. Like, no matter what else we say, we do have a good team. You know, you look through it and on paper we're there or thereabouts. We just lack we're always an injury away from being fucked. And that's kind of the way I see it. Centre-back injury, we're in trouble. Look at when we had no defensive midfielder the season before. We had to rely on Bajcetic to be the hero. An 18-year-old kid. You know? So, what do you guys think and want in this window? You know, I'm always happy to answer questions, of course, but I'm going to try and guess what I think will happen in this transfer window. I think Trent will be re-signed to a new deal. I think Verge will sign a new deal, but not inside this transfer window. I think Salah runs down his contract and leaves for free next year. I think we bring in a centre-back and a utility forward and not a midfielder. That's my guess for what will happen in the window. But what should happen in the window is Salah should be sold, Van Dijk should be given a new deal, Trent should be given a new deal, Costas should be sold, a centre-back, a defensive midfielder and a forward brought in. The goalkeeping department probably needs to be looked at. Whatever happens with Alice or Adrian, looks like he's off the Betis. We need to sort out somebody there. We need to realise we can't keep kicking the can down the road with Kelleher. His future needs to be resolved one way or the other. And that's again just to kind of get us back to where I think we're ready to challenge. Does Lucho actually want to play for Barcelona? Well, obviously I can only give you an opinion on that, mate, because I am at Lucho. Yes. I think if they came to the table and had an opportunity to buy him, I think both we'd sell him and that he'd go. We need to keep Salah. Do we though? Like really, do we? Like, do we need to keep Salah because of his history or because of what you're seeing in front of your eyes? Let's be honest about it. There's no sensible part of me that thinks that not selling Salah is... Like, selling him's the right thing. He's past his best. And I'm genuinely baffled how anybody can think otherwise. Like, if we were a club like Chelsea, who didn't have to make every penny count, fair enough, maybe you throw more money at Mo to keep him. But a 32-year-old man is still a 32-year-old man. And he's a player that didn't have enough end product for me last season, picked up some injuries. I just don't see any sense in keeping him. Is he worth £100 million for a season? Because that's basically what we're admitting. Either Liverpool are going to get £100 million or Mohamed Salah is going to get £100 million. As I've always said, I know which one I want to get the money. Yeah, I know I keep banging on about the Salah stuff and people think I have some agenda against them. I don't. I just want what's best for the football club. And what's best for the football club is us having money to look to rebuild. Because Mohamed Salah is not the Mohamed Salah that we were lucky enough to enjoy for the 6 years he's been at the club. A Mohamed Salah that sets records, smashes them. But that's not the Mohamed Salah we see these days. What we see these days is a poor version of Mohamed Salah. No Salah equals no 20-goal player. Bullshit. That's just bullshit. I'm sorry, it is. It's just nonsense. That's just like making excuses for it. Like, that's just fear-mongering again. No, Liverpool have always had players that will score goals. Always. And Darwin Núñez will score those 20 goals for you next season. I guarantee you that. And if he doesn't, who cares who scores them? All that should matter is the results. Not how many goals one player scores. Liverpool to win. That's the important thing. I don't care if Salah scores 500 goals. If we don't win the league title, I don't care. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever to me. Build a team around Núñez instead of Salah and he scores more, says Escapado. I certainly feel like he's worth the risk more, Núñez, and I think he's going to do well this season. Vlad said, to be honest, I do have an agenda against them. Might be unpopular, but we must cash out on them the first chance we have. So, look, Salah is a really unique situation because we've never really had this at the club. And I've never felt like Salah fully has the club's best interests at heart. I think he's inherently about brand Mohamed Salah. That's okay. It's his life. It's his career. But the one we fell in love with is the one that used to just go past players for fun, cut inside into his left boot and rocket goals in. Now we're debating whether we should still be taking penalties. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with him, but what I feel like will happen is we'll be talking next year about the fact that he's gone for nothing and that we should have cashed in and sold him. I feel like 99% of us will be having that conversation next summer. Do you feel like we need a winger or a left-footed winger to replace Salah? I don't know, because football is cyclical, and at the minute the trend is to have inverted wingers. Doesn't mean you have to do it. There's also something to be said about an old-fashioned winger getting to the byline, but I'm old-fashioned. I like my left wingers to have a left foot, my right wingers to have a right foot, and my number 10s to operate in the space in between, in the lines. So I don't mind, as long as we do look to the future. We need to make sure that we have somebody that will be ready for the next 5, 6, 7 years. So, you know this whole goals and assists crap that people bring up? Have you noticed that the goals and assists stuff only get brought up when they're trying to justify the existence of a player? So the Salah stuff, he got 30 goals and assists this season. And you should be dropping the assists part of that if you want to have this conversation hold any weight. It should be that he scored 30 goals this season. And even at that, let's have a conversation about how many goals he scored that weren't penalties. Assists is the most unlogical stat in the world to me, because you could pass the ball to me 40 yards from goal and I could run through 3 players and rip a ball into the top corner and you'd get an assist. Or you can beat 10 players and roll the ball across the 6-yard box to me and I get a tap in, you get an assist. I don't like the assist stat. I find it very misleading and it's used to stat pad. So Salah should be talking about goals, not assists. Goals. Only goals. That's what he exists for, to score. Okay. Were you happy with how the season ended? This season? Genuinely, were you happy? Because you can't tell me that having nothing to play for the last 4 or 5 games of the season was not regrettable. When we were in a position where Craig is capping. Can we speak English? Like, or can we have a big boy conversation? Like, you can say I'm capping. I'll tell you that I'm being realistic. I've always said the same thing about assists. Assists can be a misleading category. As I've said, 5-yard pass where I beat 5 players and score, you get an assist. Or you could actually give me an assist where you roll it across the 6-yard box. Anyway, back to my point. Were you happy with the end of this season? I'm guessing the answer is no. Were you happy with 2 months to go in the season? Probably yes. Because we were still in with a chance, right? And that's been the problem for us. How many close calls have we had? 2 European Cup finals on the Jurgen that we've lost. How many second place finishes? A third place finish. It hurts. It just fucking hurts. So you can say that they're due to injuries. They're not. We fell off because we started to play the senior players again. Look at what happened when we were missing some of the, what we would call senior pros. Mohamed Salah being one of them. Look at the results without Salah in the team. And then look at the results with him back in the team. Or Trent coming back in instead of Bradley. We fell off when the senior players came back. The youngsters were grinding it out. And we're finding ways to win. So, it's just frustrating. We need to make sure we can get over the line. We were better before Mo came back. Absolutely we were. And the stats back that up. But sometimes, mate, you're banging your head against the wall sometimes trying to speak common sense because people don't want to hear it. Dovecar said, it's pure agenda. Then if Salah leaves, same people will be crying, why did Salah leave? I think it's common sense. Like, would you not agree? You've got a 32-year-old with a year to go in his contract. A 32-year-old who'd been out with injury or bad form for most of the second half of last season. What are you seeing that I'm not seeing? Do I think we will miss Salah, yes or no? Not this version of Salah, no. Like, I would not be sitting here talking to you if we were seeing Mohamed Salah of 2 years ago or 3 years ago. But we're not. And all the best intentions and will in the world isn't going to bring that lad back. We fall short because FSG falls short splashing the cash. I know. Look, I've said this many times. Let's talk about two big windows that we've had in recent years. Remember the season Alisson Becker scored that wonderful header against West Brom and we found our way back in the Champions League? We got lucky. The season that we missed out on the Champions League, last season, the season before being the qualifying criteria, we were short of a centre-back and a midfielder. And the club rolled the dice on Arthur Melo and we ended up in the Europa League. And if it wasn't for Alisson Becker's amazing header, we would have been in the Europa League again. And we were told that we were being unrealistic looking for a centre-back, and then we go out and bring in Ozan fucking Kabak and Ben Davies. The answer to FSG has always been cheap, sticking plaster, just enough. And it doesn't work all the time. And we got away with it under Jurgen Klopp because, one, we had players like Salah and Alisson who bailed us out, and Van Dijk. But we can't keep getting away with it. There's only so many times you get lucky. And we've got lucky. We've a 50-50 success rate in seasons where we've gone in and not addressed the real deficiencies in the squad. West Ham fan here. Watched AA for years. Can't explain how much you've helped out my mental health. Here's to many more years. P.S. Stay away from Bowen. Thank you, AG. Really kind of you, mate. Appreciate you so much. Thank you. I wish I didn't have to stay away from Bowen though, because I really, really like him. And if we wanted a player who could do Salah's job for our system in the here and now, Bowen would be that guy. But he's not a very Liverpool type signing with the age bracket he's in, so I'd say you're probably safe there. But really, the part about your mental health there and the channel helping, mate, that means more to me than you'll ever know. So thank you so much for that. Salah got 40 goals and assists in 23-24 and he was injured. I don't know what you mean by that. Like, I wasn't talking about selling Salah last summer. This is what baffles me. I was one of the people saying that we should keep Mohamed Salah last summer when Saudi came in and not take the money, because I still believed in Mohamed Salah and I still believed that Mohamed Salah was going to be good enough. But unfortunately for me, what I've seen with my eyes this year doesn't give me that same confidence. Now we have the added pressure of losing him for free, which is another concern. And also, and I would say this for any player going into the last year of the contract, I don't believe that they're going to give 100%, because I don't believe any human being will give 100% when their career's on the line. Why would you go out there and put yourself into pain or uncomfortable positions if you know you've got a deal tied up and a big contract to earn or potential of a big deal? All of this just doesn't scream success to me and doesn't scream consistency. Craig, Salah is going nowhere. Okay, let's wait and see how that pans out when he leaves for free. When he has a bang average season this season and leaves for free, we'll see where all the apologists are then. When the club says that they've no money, or we can't afford to do something because transfer fees are limited or funds are limited, then we'll see where everybody is. I mean, you're fucking deluded, is all I'm going to say. Like, honestly, if you think that Mohamed Salah now was the same Mohamed Salah of years gone past, you are just deluding yourself. It isn't based off any type of reality whatsoever. The stats back it up, his performances back it up, his increased injuries back it up, his tiredness back it up, and even in Mohamed Salah's best years, he tended to fall off at the end of the campaign. Remember the years he was chasing golden boots? He fell off towards the end of the campaign. He was nowhere near as good, and that was in his prime years. I don't know, because he's a professional. Have you ever played sport? Really, like, honestly, he's a professional. So? Put yourself in his position. There's a 50-50 challenge coming up that you might get injured in. Are you going to put your body on the line knowing that it could cost you tens of millions of quid? The fuck you are. Because you're normal. You're a rational-minded human being who's thinking about your family and your future. You're not going to put those extra hard yards in. You're not going to play through the pain barrier. You're not going to show up if you feel like you're on the edge. You're going to take the easy way out. Professional or not professional. That's just human nature. And again, I feel like we're still talking about Salah here and there's so many other things to go through. So what do we think is going to happen with Trent? How many golden boots did he win? I'm going to say this very clearly for you, just in case you're not getting it through your fucking head. I don't support Mohamed Salah, you fucking clown. How many golden boots he wins means fucking nothing. How many league titles has he won? One. The same as the rest of the Liverpool team. How many European Cups has he won at Liverpool? One. The same as the rest of the team. So him having God knows how many golden boots on his mantelpiece means absolutely fucking nothing to me, because it doesn't help the team. Winning is what I want to see. I want to see medals around necks, not individual accolades, because it's a team sport. It isn't Mohamed Salah FC. Answer my question. Who the fuck do you think you are? Answer my question. Shut the fuck up, you little gimp. Answer my question. Get a hold of yourself, Mark. Who the fuck do you think you are speaking to me like that? Answer the question, you fucking gobshite. Weird. The entitlement, like. So you didn't play sports, you don't have an opinion on football. Correct. Because you don't have a fucking clue what you're talking about. So you aren't entitled to an opinion in my chat. Does that work for you? Because you're the Salah fanboy that justifies everything he does. That wasn't allowed to have Mane celebrate when he won the AFCON in case it hurt Mo's feelings. You're the lad that's cheering on him and Remy Abbas when they're there having lunch with the PSG president. When Remy Abbas is laughing at the fan base and laughing at the club's offers to Mo. You're an idiot. Does that work? Am I being blunt enough for you? So no, you don't have an opinion on football because you don't have a fucking clue what you're talking about. Can Gordon only play left wing or can he play in other positions too? So we looked at the numbers around Anthony Gordon playing for Newcastle, and I think he's played less than 5 games on the right hand side, if my memory's right from what we looked at. Craig doesn't have a clue what's going on behind the club. You might want to go back and look at my history about deals, mate. Kanate, hi. Carvalho, hi. First people to talk about Gordon coming in, hi. So yeah, I've nothing. I've no idea what's going on behind the club, mate. Not a clue. Just 261,000 people here tuning in to hear what I have to say about the football club because, you know, maybe, just maybe, I can I do my research and I know what I'm talking about and I have an educated response to these things. I don't know. But again, Nathan, nobody's dragged you in here to be here. I'm not here to be laughed at, mocked or ridiculed by you or anybody else. It's that simple, bro. Would I sell Diaz for Nico Williams? Yes, I would. I think that would be sensible. Look, I have to say, I've nothing... How do I word this? I like Lucho. I think he's a really good player. And I think he's in his prime now. I would have questions about his output. But ultimately, I really, really like him. And I have... like, the way he handled this past season, I thought is incredible. What he and his family went through, for him to be able to perform at the level he did during that time and after his father and his mum came home, it just speaks to the man's mental strength, professionalism. He's great. But he is 27. And if an offer comes in that works for him and Liverpool, I would say allow him to go. But if he's happy to stay, I'm more than happy for Lucho to continue with the football club. I think most of us just feel like the Barcelona elephant in the room, and the comments from his dad in the past about his admiration for Barcelona, I think that just worries a lot of us, and we don't want to... You don't want to nail your colours to the mast and then be hurt, if you get me. So I'm really relaxed about Lucho. He's in a good contract position for the club. He's in his prime years now. He's on a relatively low wage compared to other players. So honestly, I have nothing but respect for him. But if he wants out, like any player, I would suggest to sell. I respect you for that, Craig. This is why I watch you for years. You keep it real. That's very important. Look, I can't win in this chair. You know, I come on and I say to people, this is my opinion, and people say I know nothing. I come on and I talk about stories in the newspapers and people say you're clickbait. I can't win in this position, but yeah, I still show up every day because I enjoy what I do. I love chatting to you guys, and I spend as much time as I can learning as much about our business, trying to inform people, and trying to guess what might be happening at the club. So if that's not good enough for some people, I can't change that. But I'm not going to be disrespected on my own stream by anybody, because I don't disrespect people. If you come in and show love to us, you're going to get it back. If you come in and act like an asshole, you're going to get shown the door. It's that simple. And I don't have patience to sit here and justify my existence. I've justified my existence for 6 years. I'm pretty good at what I do. If it's not good enough for you, that's okay. There's many other channels for you to go and watch. But don't come in here and start talking shit to me or my community, because it ain't going to wash. How are ticket sales going for Cardiff and Liverpool? Have you sold out now? Cardiff, actually, they've stalled, in all honesty. Cardiff, I think, were about half capacity. So yeah, that needs a little bit of work. Liverpool's doing really well. You know, we sold out the initial show. We've added on the extra tickets. About half of the extra tickets have gone. So yeah, the Liverpool show's looking really good. Ray said stop feeding into it. I hear you, Ray. I hear you. It's a common sense thing to say. But I'd love you to be in my position, mate, for a minute and say that. It isn't easy, bro. You know, when you've got your own insecurities and other people are then pointing at your insecurities, it's not easy, Ray. You know, I try my best not to bite, but some days, like everybody else, you know, some days I can let it slide, some days I pick on it, you know. It is what it is, my man. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but my point is, why should it always be on the streamer or the content creator to let it go? Why isn't it on people to behave better, Ray? You know, that's what I always tried to say. It shouldn't always be on everybody else to take the moral high ground. We should expect better from people. You know, that's what I guess the pushback I'd give you, bro. Love you, mate. Forget the idiots. Mo should be sold, said Craig Adams. I believe the perfect summer, said Yusuf, would be Nico Williams, Ederson and Inacio. Right, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about the Anthony Gordon situation. So bear with me for a second. So, hang on. No, this top's still a bit tight. So, what time have we got? Okay. So, the latest on Anthony Gordon is as follows. Right now, as I sit here, the PSR stuff is no longer a factor in the conversation. So we have to ask ourselves one of two things. Do we think that the interest remains? And do we think that Newcastle would sell? The answer to the first part of that, based off a lot of journalist thoughts, are yes, the interest still is there. Would Anthony Gordon be open to the move? Yes. But the likelihood for me of it coming to fruition now, it's probably gone down quite a bit. Just my opinion. Because now, if Newcastle sell him, they can demand top dollar. They could realistically look for that £100 million valuation. And I don't think Anthony Gordon is worth that much money. I think this was a right time, right opportunity type of deal. That if it had have worked for Liverpool and Newcastle, it would have been a good strategic piece of business for a player that would more than likely improve the squad overall. But he wouldn't have been the top of my list of priorities. In fact, he would have been quite far down it because I think he still has some to prove. I can't deny though, the kid has something about him. He has that fight and determination, that strong Scouse mentality, trickery, and he's a likeable guy. But for me, I don't know if Liverpool are going to continue to kick this can down the road or going to act on it. What I will say is, and I feel very strongly about this, I like to try and put myself in the player's shoes. If I'm Anthony Gordon or his family or his agent or his mates, I know that I was willing to be sacrificed. I know that I can't be that important to the football club if they're willing after one season, a very productive season, to throw him under the bus and sell him. That is not going to go well. On top of that, and I'm taking this from other people because I don't know about this situation, but apparently the kid Anderson that just moved to Chelsea from Newcastle was Anthony Gordon's mate at the club, one of his really close mates that he got on really well with. That isn't going to help either because he's now moved on, so that's one more comrade not at the club for Anthony Gordon. So will Liverpool reevaluate? Potentially, but our hand, in my opinion, has now been weakened in those negotiations. So if I was to say to you right now, do I think Anthony Gordon comes to Liverpool? No. Up until the PSR stuff, yes, there was a good chance because it was opportunistic. I'm genuinely really surprised that Newcastle were offering him about. It's one thing maybe letting it be known that he's potentially available. But remember what actually happened here. According to many, many reliable journalists, they came a knocking on Liverpool's door, looking to one, sell Anthony Gordon, and two, bring in Jarell Quansah, which makes all kinds of sense for them because they need centre-backs and Quansah's a fine young centre-back. But we weren't willing to negotiate on that point. And it seems like that was the only sticking point that we've been made aware of, that Liverpool were just not willing to include Quansah. What I don't know, and perhaps maybe I've missed this, is what Newcastle's response was to that. So if Liverpool said to them, we're not going to include Jarell Quansah, but we would be open to a conversation around Gordon, I don't know, maybe Newcastle said, no, it has to be this or nothing. So until we know what exactly happened, and it is a little bit up in the air at the minute, because obviously a lot of the journalists and Anthony Gordon that are over at the Euros, so it's kind of unknown territory right now. But I think what we do need to do in this window is get realistic about what we want for the next 2, 3, 4 years. Academy products are great. Bringing players through, signing the likes of those youngsters, putting them in the academy and bringing them through is brilliant. But we need to look to the here and now as well. And for me, we need to be realistic. And any way that we can bring in money to the club, we need to look at. And for me, that involves some uncomfortable conversations. What do you do with Trent, Virgil and Mo? We can't just keep ignoring this and just hoping it goes away. Trent Alexander-Arnold is over there right now, probably already feeling a little bit frustrated because Gareth Southgate is using him as a scapegoat and not really giving him the opportunity to shine on the international stage. He's over there with Bellingham, who's made that leap, left England, went to Germany and is now at Real Madrid. And what scares me about the Trent situation in particular is the success he's had. I know that might sound counterintuitive, but when I look at Trent, I see a local lad. I see a phenomenal young man. But I also see somebody who's won a Premier League, who's won a European Cup, who's won a League Cup, an FA Cup, 2 League Cups, an FA Cup, a Club World Cup and a Super Cup in the Klopp era. So for him, if the opportunity to make a move in his career comes up, there is no bigger opportunity than Real Madrid. We need to be realistic about that as fans. We all assume and hope that Trent stays, but we can't say for certain that he does. So what happens in that scenario if he does decide he'd like a change of scenery? Because I'm still concerned about the expression on Trent's face when Klopp was departing. The lost look in his eyes. Jurgen was a huge influence on Trent's career. And now Trent has the opportunity to go to the biggest club in the world and win consistently for the next 10 years. That has to be appealing. I'm not saying it's the right answer. I want Trent to stay. You want Trent to stay. But what I don't understand, and I can't get my head around, is the strategic play here from Liverpool. What are we doing? How do you let your vice captain get to the last year of his contract when he's 25 years of age? There is no answer that anybody's going to give me that will convince me that that is not poor business and poor judgment from the football club. Virgil and Mo have always said, I can understand their situations because of their age. We'll all have our own opinions on whether we think Virgil and Mo can play for 2 or 3 more years at the top level. That's a different conversation. But right now, what is going on with Trent? And the excuse making continues. So what we'll hear is, when Jurgen said he was leaving, Trent and everybody wanted to see if new coach would come in. Trent wanted to wait and see what happened. That's fine, that buys you a little bit of time. But then when Arne Slot was announced, nothing happened. It's worrying. And I'm genuinely petrified that we lose Trent for next to nothing. And then maybe have to watch Salah leave. So whatever the club are doing and whatever their decision is on their 3 contracts, I hope we get some confirmation of it soon, one way or the other. Because we don't need distractions going into a new campaign. And if Mohamed Salah, Virgil van Dijk or Trent Alexander-Arnold start playing in August with no deal sorted, that's just going to be a headache coming. That's going to be a distraction coming, column inches coming, awkward questions for Arne Slot at every press conference. And it's not going to end well. So I hope that the club are doing something behind the scenes, something big. Because this is worrying me. The situation with those contracts are really, really worrying me. Because we've seen too many great players leave for free already. I'm going to renew a stat that I've said a few times. Of the last 12 senior players that have left Liverpool Football Club, we've only got a transfer fee for 4. I don't think that's great business. You let Sadio Mane, Bobby Firmino, Mohamed Salah potentially leave for a combined 30 million. I find that very hard to swallow. So that's where I'm at. But I want to know how you guys feel about it all. Are you as concerned about this as I am? Because faith is one thing, but sometimes faith is blind and misplaced. We want things to happen. We want Trent to stay. We want Liverpool to spend. We want to think the best of the owners and everybody at the club. But we also have to be realistic in what we're seeing with our eyes. And this situation is really concerning. Am I having a day off this week? So, I can give you the PC answer or the real answer. The real answer is this is the last day of the month. Therefore, it's the last day I have to earn revenue to pay my boys their wages. As a channel, this is the first month ever we've lost money as a channel. So yeah, that's why I didn't take days off, because I've got to keep working. I've got to make sure that I can pay the bills, pay the lads their wages. And I would like some more days off, but sometimes I don't have the opportunity to take those days off because, like anybody else who's self-employed, I've got to make sure that I do the work and I've got to make sure that I look after my team. So will I have a day off this week? I don't know, is the honest answer. If you could choose between Kvaratskhelia and Gordon for the same price, who would you bring in? Ooh, good question. I'd probably go with Anthony Gordon in that scenario. Yeah, I probably would, because with Kvaratskhelia, I have I have some questions about his adaptability and consistency. I don't really have those questions about Gordon after the first year he had with Newcastle. When he was at Everton, I certainly wouldn't have been advocating for him over Kvaratskhelia, but I've been impressed with what Anthony Gordon's done in the last year and how much he's kicked on as a player. So yeah, I'd probably take him over Kvaratskhelia for the same money. I'm genuinely a little bit disheartened by some of the shithousing in the chat by people. Like, I've tried to be honest and answer questions, but I'm a human being. And the last day or two has hurt me because there's been a lot of trolling, a lot of abusiveness, and a lot of shit that I don't think I deserve. But I'm still showing up, and I'm still trying my best, and I'm still trying to put a smile on. And I just don't understand why people are so hateful and cynical and sickly in the chats. Like, I don't get it. I don't get what you get out of hurting people. I don't understand what joy that might bring you. But all I can say to you is, before I finish up, if you are one of those people, my heart goes out to you because you're lacking something. You're lacking some love in your life or something positive if you feel the need to be this way. And I don't know how many more years I have left of this because I've left social media. And this is the only real outlet I use to talk football. And if it becomes toxic for me, I won't be here any longer because, I need to enjoy what I do. And I'm not really enjoying it a lot lately because the trolling's coming back in. And I thought we'd passed that. And I thought we'd gotten to a better place. So right now, I'm going to say goodnight. And yeah, hopefully tomorrow's a better day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.